Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Friday, October 29th, 2021. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's Thursday Night Football game and look ahead to Sunday's games and make the picks. College football, same thing. Go over last night's games, look ahead to tonight's and tomorrow's games for Week 9. NBA and NHL, we'll recap last night's games and look ahead to tonight and the weekend. World Series games 3, 4, and 5. Major League Soccer, golf, Nascar, news and notes, and best bet and Fab 5 at the end of the show. We will start with Thursday Night Football, as I mentioned at the top, and the Packers come out victorious by a score of 24-21 to hand the Cardinals their first loss as they drop to 7-1. The Packers themselves go to 7-1. Aaron Rodgers, one of the better wins, in my opinion, of his career, as he's had so many of them. This, to me, has to be up there, defeating an unbeaten Arizona team, shorthanded at the wide receiver and in the defensive backs. Rodgers, 22 of 37, 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kyler Murray, 22 of 33, 274 yards and 2 interceptions. And it was a great game, and Kyler Murray threw a late interception to Rasul Douglas at the end of the game, as AJ Green kind of lost Douglas, and Douglas took advantage and made the play, and the Packers get a humongous victory on Thursday Night Football. All right, and now to the picks for the weekend. So just gonna say it now. The Fab 5 picks for the end of the show are numbers that I bet on Wednesday because I am currently out of the state. So, and I'm currently in a state that doesn't allow sports gambling legally. So I made the Fab 5 picks on Wednesday night, and I'll just announce them at the end of the show. But I'm going to give out the plays for the show as they stand right now, if that makes sense to you guys. All right, so first up, you have the Panthers and the Falcons from Atlanta. I project Atlanta by 4 3/4, total 46.8. Meanwhile, it is Atlanta by 3, total 46.5. I'm going to take the Falcons minus the 3 as the play here. I think that they are better than the Panthers right now, who don't have Christian McCaffrey still. And the Falcons, to me, are a team that's, let's be honest, trending towards playoffs in the NFC. So we'll see where that goes. And then my second choice would be a slight choice on the over. Well, it's actually slight Falcons and slight over, because the numbers are very, very close. So that's that. All right. Next up, you got the Dolphins and the Bills. I project the Bills by 17 3/4, total 48.9. Meanwhile, on FanDuel at the moment, it is Bills 14 total, 48.5. I'm going to lay it with the Bills. The Bills just absolutely own the Dolphins, in case you guys didn't know. So I'm going to lay the 14 with the Bills, and if I had a second choice, that would be a slight edge to the over. All right. Next up on Fox. So, by the way, Panthers, Falcons, Fox, Dolphins, Bills, CBS. So, 49ers, Bears. I project the Niners as 1 3/4, total 42-4. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 39.5. I love the over here. I think that there's going to be much more scoring than you think. I learned my lesson from last week with the low totals. Don't really take the under when you see a bad defense, a la the Jets. But I think that without Khalil Mack for the Bears, which I have to change my projection now to 2 3/4, I think that the over is an amazing, amazing play here. So, without Khalil Mack, which is a big loss for the Bears defense, I absolutely love the over now more than I did yesterday. And a second choice would be a slight lean to the Bears. Next up, you got on Fox, Eagles, Lions. I project the Eagles by 3, total of 48. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 48. I have no choice but to take the Lions with a slight edge, getting the 3.5 here. On CBS, the Steelers and the Browns. I project the Browns by 6 1/4, total 44-9. Meanwhile, it is 4 and 42.5. Baker's good to go. I'm still debating here where to go because the Browns can conceivably be without Owusu-Koramoah again, which would bump my projection down a little bit. So, the play here is going to be the over because I still think there's a chance that Owusu-Koramoah can miss. And the Steeler offense has been showing some signs of life in a weird way, if that makes any sense. It's been a little bit better than it was to start the year. So, I like the over 42.5 in that game. Next up on CBS, the Titans and the Colts. I project the Titans now by 3.5 with the absence of Julio Jones, total of 48.2. Meanwhile, it is Indianapolis by 2.5, total of 51. Yes, the Colts have been playing better, but I don't think they should be favored here. No way. And I have a nice edge on the under as well. So for here, I'm going to go with Tennessee getting the 2.5, and I like them plus 122 to win straight up, even without Julio. Next up on CBS, you have the Bengals and the Jets. I project the Bengals by 10, total 43.9, 10.5 and 42.5. I still like the over. I think that the Bengals offense is a unit on a tear right now, so I like a slight over, and I would take a slight edge on the Jets, even with Mike White starting for them. On Fox, Rams, Texans. I project the Rams by 19.5, total 46.7. Meanwhile, it is 15.5 and 46.5. I still would lay it with the Rams, and I have a slight edge on the over. Next up, 4 o'clock on CBS, you have the Patriots and the Chargers. I project the Chargers by 7 3/4, total 47.65. Meanwhile, it is the Chargers by 4, total 49.5. I'm going to take the Chargers minus the points. And I also have a slight edge on the under. CBS, Jaguars, Seahawks. I project the Seahawks by 4, total 46.25. Meanwhile, 3.5 and 44.5. I really like the over. It's a slight over. But the case is that Seattle's defense is hot garbage, and so is Jacksonville's. 4:25 on Fox. The Washington Professional Football Team at the Broncos. I project the Broncos by 6.5, total 44.5. Meanwhile, it's Denver by 3.5, total 44.5. I'm going to lay the 3.5 with Denver. Buccaneers Saints. I project the Bucs. Ooh, if Gronk doesn't play, my projection will change to 6.5, but we don't know about the status of Gronk and Levante David yet. They'll also go to 6, but for now, 7 and 47.2. Meanwhile, it is 4.5 and 49.5. I'm gonna lay the 4.5 with the Bucs for now, although I have an edge on the under 2, but I still would rather lay it with the Bucs because my projection, as things stand at the moment, is 7. So I'm gonna the podcast play Bucs minus 4.5 against the Saints. And last but not least, Sunday Night Football, 8 o'clock on NBC, Cowboys Vikings. My projection is Cowboys by 2, total 52.9. Meanwhile, the Vikings are favored by 3, total 51.5. Is there an injury on the Cowboys that we don't know about? Like, is Dak Prescott playing? Because why in God's name is Minnesota a 3-point favorite? Oh. Dak may not play. Aha, that's why they're dogs right now. So, if Dak were not to play, this projection would change dramatically. Like, I have the Cowboys right now projected, I have the Cowboys as a projected 2-point favorite, and the line would go, let's see. My line would then go to 3.5 Minnesota. So, honestly, the play right now, and then the total's down to 51.5, which is crazy. But right now, I'll take the Cowboys getting the 3, but if Dak doesn't play, then I'm going to lay the 3 with Minnie. So this is a asterisk Cowboys plus 3 and plus 136, but that will change. If Dak doesn't play, it's Minnesota by 3, laying in points. And if Dak does play, it's Dallas plus the 3, and they win. So there you go. Alrighty, so that's it for football. Now we'll move on to college football. That took a little longer than I would have liked to hope, only because I had to see with some injury statuses and whatnot. So we'll look back on last night's games, and we will look ahead to today. All right, number 24, Coastal Carolina over Troy, 35-38. Coastal 7-1, Troy 4-4. And East Carolina over South Florida, 29-14. ECU 4-4, USF 2-6. All right, now we will look ahead to tonight and Saturday. So 7:30 ESPN2 tonight. Navy Tulsa. I project Tulsa by 11, total 55-65. Meanwhile, it is 11.5 and 46.5. I absolutely love the over. I think it's a lock. 10 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, UNLV and Nevada. Good rivalry. I project Nevada by 20.5, total 56. Meanwhile, it's 20.5 and 58.5. I'm taking the under. All right, Saturday, 12 o'clock on ESPN2, number 2 Cincinnati at Tulane. I project Cincinnati by 16, total 64-25. Meanwhile, it is Cincy by 26.5, total 61.5. I like Tulane to cover. On Fox, the game of the week. Game days in the house. Number 6, Michigan at number 8, Michigan State. In-state rivalry, Big Ten. I project the Pick'em in 52-25. Meanwhile, it is Michigan, the Wolverines, by 4.5, total 50.5. I love Michigan State plus 4.5, and why not? They're home plus 168. Straight up. I think this is the moment for Mel Tucker. They're going to get this done. Jim Harbaugh, yet again, loses to a top 10 opponent. ESPN, number 9, Iowa at Wisconsin, another great game. I project a pick 'em in 41.05. Meanwhile, it's Wisconsin 3.5, total 36.5. I'm going to take the over, believe it or not. In terms of a pick to win the game, I'm going to say Iowa in a bounce back spot, plus 3.5 at minus 130 and plus 140 straight up. But the actual podcast pick is going to be over 36.5. ABC, Texas at number 16, Baylor. I project Baylor by 3, total 62.8. Meanwhile, it is Baylor by 2.5, total 61.5. I'm going to have a slight over. That's the pick. ACC Network, Miami at number 17, Pitt. I project Pitt by 10.5, total 61.35, and that is counting for the injury to De'Ara King. And it is 9.5 and 61.5. Slight edge Pitt. Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech. I project Georgia Tech by 5, total 54. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 55.5. 3.5, 50. These are all good numbers, but so I have two choices. I feel better about Georgia Tech. Slight edge Georgia Tech and then slight under. So podcast play slight Georgia Tech minus 3.5. Big Ten Network, Rutgers and Illinois. I project Rutgers by 1.25, total 43.35. Meanwhile, it is Rutgers by 1.5, total 41.5. I'm going to take a slight edge to the over. Indiana, Maryland. I project Maryland by 2, total 52.35. Meanwhile, it is Maryland by 4.5, total 49.5. I'm going to take the over. UMass Liberty. I project Liberty by 19.25, total 56.15. Meanwhile, it is 35.5 and 56.5. I'm going to take UMass getting the points. That's a lot. UCF and Temple. I project Temple by 1, total 57.9. Meanwhile, it is UCF by 10.5, total 51.5. And the reason why Temple's projected as a favorite here is because of the quarterback from UCF, Gabriel, is not playing. So I'm going to take Temple plus 10.5 and plus 340 straight up. So that's your ballsy upset pick of the week on the Madison Miller podcast. And I also really like the over in that game as well. CBS Sports Network, Bowling Green, Buffalo. I project Buffalo by 14, total 52.7. Meanwhile, it is Buffalo 13.5 and 51.5 is the total. Very close numbers, but I'm going to take a slight edge to the over. ESPNU, Texas State, Louisiana. I project Louisiana by 18, total 54.2. Meanwhile, it is Louisiana by 21.5, total 58.5. Under. 2 o'clock on the Big 12 networks and ESPN Plus. Number 22, Iowa State at West Virginia. I project Iowa State by 5, total 50.35. Meanwhile, it is Iowa State by 7.5, total 48.5. I like West Virginia getting the 7.5 a lot. 7 hooks a lot for the Mountaineers at home. I think that Iowa State will win, though. North Texas, Rice. I project Rice by 8, total 54.5. Now it's 1.5 and 55.5. I'm laying the 1.5 with Rice. 3 o'clock, SEC Network, Missouri and Vandy. I project Missouri by 4.75, total 60.4. Meanwhile, it is Missouri 16.5, total 62.5. I'm taking Vandy again in the points. Fox Sports 1, Washington State and Arizona State. I project Zona State by 11 and 3/4, total 48-55. Meanwhile, it is Zona State 15.5, total 53.5. So some big edges, but I'm going to take the under. Next up, Hawaii and Utah State. I project Utah State by 6 and 3/4, total 56-1. And it is 5.5 and 66.5. Absolutely love the under. Big game, 3:30, CBS, number 1 Georgia at Florida from Jacksonville. I project this to be Georgia by 9.5, total 50-25. Meanwhile, it is Georgia 14.5, total 50.5. I'm going to take the points with the Gators. ABC, Texas Tech at number 4, Oklahoma. I project OU by 17.5. Total is 66. Meanwhile, it is let's see here. Oklahoma by 19.5, total 66.5. I am going to take Tech plus the 19.5. That's a lot of points. On Fox, Colorado at number 7, Oregon. I project Oregon by 19, total 45-65. Meanwhile, it is 24.5 and 50.5. I'm going to go with Colorado and the points. Don't feel super about it. FIU Marshall. I project Marshall by 14.5, total 62-1. Meanwhile, it is Marshall 22.5 and 64.5. I'm taking FIU in the points. CBS Sports Network, Louisiana Tech and Old Dominion. I project La Tech by 6.5, total 50-45. Meanwhile, it is La Tech 3.5 and total 52.5. I'm going to lay the 3.5 with La Tech. Southern Miss and Middle Tennessee. I project Middle by 6, total 50-35. Meanwhile, it is 12.5 and 47.5. I'm going to take Southern in the points. ESPN, Florida State, Clemson. I project Clemson by 12.5, total 46-45. Meanwhile, it is 9.5 and 47.5. I'm going to lay it with Clemson. BC, Syracuse. I project Syracuse by 1 and 3/4, total 49-8. Meanwhile, it is Syracuse 6.5, total 51.5. I'm going to take BC in the points. Minnesota, Northwestern. I project Minnesota by 1, total 46-75. Meanwhile, it is Mini by 7.5, total 43.5. I'm taking Northwestern in the points. ESPN 2, Purdue, Nebraska. I project Purdue by 1 and 3/4, total 43-6. Meanwhile, it is Nebraska 7.5, total 53.5. I'm taking Purdue. That is a lot of points, and I like them plus 245 to win straight up. Next up, TCU and Kansas State. That game is on ESPNU. I project Kansas State by 1.5, total 59-95. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 58.5. I'm taking TCU in the points. UL Monroe and App State. I project App State by 13.5, total 58-75. Meanwhile, it is App State 26.5, total 57.5. I'm taking UL Monroe in the points. 4 o'clock, ACC Network, Duke at number 13, Wake Forest. I project Wake by 14, total 64-75. Meanwhile, it is Wake 16.5, total 70.5. Under. Charlotte and Western Kentucky. I project Western by 2.5, total 63.5. or 63.5. And it is Western by 17.5. Total 73.5. I love Charlotte and all the points, and I also love the under. I do the same game with that. Fox Sports 2, Wyoming, San Jose State. I project Wyoming by 1.25, total 42.8. Meanwhile, it's San Jose 2.5, total 40.5. It looks like the quarterback's back for that game. But that said, I'm going to take Wyoming plus the 2.5 and minus 102 and plus 124 to win on the money line. 5 o'clock, Arkansas State and South Alabama. I project USA by 7.5, total 63.45. Meanwhile, it's USA by 9, total 66.5. I'm going to take the under. 6 o'clock, UTEP and FAU. I project FAU by 2, total 45-45. Meanwhile, it is 10.5 and 48.5. I'm taking UTEP in all the points. Georgia State and Georgia Southern. I project State by 0.5, total 57.1. Meanwhile, it is State by 5.5, total 55.5. I'm going to take Southern in the points. 7 o'clock, ESPN, Ole Miss, Auburn. I project Ole Miss by 2.5, total of 62. Meanwhile, it is Auburn favored in the game by 2.5, total of 66.5. I kind of like Ole Miss more than I like the under, but yeah, Ole Miss plus 2.5 and plus 120 straight up. I was just undeciding there for a second. SEC Network, number 12, Kentucky and Mississippi State. I project Kentucky by 5, total 50-25. Meanwhile, it is Mississippi State is a 1-point favorite, total 47.5. I'm taking Kentucky plus the 1.5 and minus 104 on the money line. Maybe this is the Vegas Notes game. Who knows? Fox Sports 1, Kansas at number 15, Oklahoma State. I project Okie State by 22.5, total 55-75. Meanwhile, it is Okie State by 29.5, total 54.5. I'm taking Kansas again in the points. ESPN 2, number 19, SMU at Houston. I project SMU by 0.5, total 60-25. Meanwhile, it is a pick'em in 61.5. I'm going to, for the podcast, take a slight edge on the under, but a pick for the pick'em because I don't project this as a pick'em. I project them by 0.5. I'm going to say SMU wins the game just for fun on the show. I'll take them in the pick'em as a slight edge. Pac-12 Network, Oregon State and Cal. I project Oregon State by 2.5, total 52.8. Meanwhile, it is Oregon State by 1.5, total 55.5. Under. Next up, Arizona at USC on ESPNU. I project USC by 19.5, total 51-65. You know, it's 21.5 and 55.5. I like the under. CBS Sports Network, Boise State, Colorado State. I project Boise by 2, total 46-55. Meanwhile, it is Boise 2.5, total 51.5. I am taking the under. Big game, 7:30 ABC, number 20 Penn State, number 5 Ohio State. Obviously, game day would have been here if Penn State didn't lose that game to Illinois. But even if they didn't, I mean, the Michigan schools deserve it because Ohio State still has the loss to Oregon on their resume. I mean, they did the right thing. Regardless of if Penn State lost that game last week or not, they should be there. But I don't know if game day would have actually done it because they tend to give Ohio State a little bit of favoritism when it comes to picking hosts. But Good for Sparty. They deserve it. I project Ohio State by 8.5, total 53.6. Meanwhile, it is Ohio State by a whopping, and I mean whopping, 19.5 and 61.5. I am taking Penn State in the points. This is a major overreaction, and Sean Clifford is getting healthier by the week. NBC, North Carolina at number 11, Notre Dame. I project Notre Dame by 8, total 59.95. Meanwhile, it is Dame by 3.5, total 62.5. I am going to take Notre Dame minus the points. ACC Network, Louisville at NC State. I project NC State by 7.5, total 55.55. Meanwhile, it's 6.5 and 56.5. I'm going to do a slight lay to NC State. 10 o'clock on ESPN, UCLA, Utah. I project Utah by 5 3/4, total 58.35. Meanwhile, it is 6.5 and 59.5. Slight under. 10:15 on ESPNU, Virginia at number 25, BYU. I project BYU by 1, total 57.75. Meanwhile, it is 2.5 and 65.5. Under. 10:30, CBS Sports Network, Fresno State at number 21, San Diego State. I project San Diego State by 8 3/4, total 48.55. Meanwhile, it is a pick'em and 44.5. I love San Diego State. Absolutely love them. And I like the over as well. And last but not least, on Fox Sports 1, Washington and Stanford, I project Washington by 1, total 50.6. Meanwhile, it is Stanford by 2.5, total 46.5. I like the over. I'm going to make the over the podcast pick, and the second pick would be Washington plus 2.5 plus 118. So I'm going to go over 46.5 for the podcast play for that game. All right, now we will move on to the NBA, where we will recap the games from last night, and we will look ahead to tonight and the weekend. 76ers over the Pistons, 110-102. Wizards over the Hawks, 122-111. Knicks over the Bulls, 104-103. Jazz over the Rockets, 122-91. Mavs over the Spurs, 104-99. And the Grizz over the Warriors, 104-101 in overtime. All right, now we look ahead to tonight. A bunch of games. First up, 7 o'clock, you have the Magic and the Raptors. I project the Raps by 9.5, total 209.3. Meanwhile, it is 8.5 and 206. I'm taking the over. 7:30, Pacers, Nets. I project the Nets by 13.5, total 226. Meanwhile, 220.6. 8.5 and 223. I'm laying it with the Nets. I think this is a good spot for Brooklyn, under 10. No Malcolm Brogdon for Indy. ESPN tonight, Hornets Heat. Good game. I project the Heat by 7.5, total 221.2. Meanwhile, it is 5 and 222.5. I'm going to lay the 5 at Miami. 8 o'clock, Kings Pelicans. I project the Kings by 5 in New Orleans, total 216.85. Meanwhile, it is Kings by 1.5, total 221. The question is the under or the Kings. I'm going to go with the under. I feel better about the under than I do about Sacramento, amazingly enough. 10 o'clock ESPN, Mavs Nuggets. Good game. I project the Nuggets by 1.5, total 205.85. Meanwhile, it is 2 and 216. I'm taking the under. Clippers Trailblazers. I project the Blazers by 6.5, total 216.55. And else 3 and 222.5. These two teams just played the other day against each other, and the Clippers blew them out. And I still rather have the under. And then 10:30, the Cavs and the Lakers. Looks like LeBron's going to play. I project the Lakers by 12, total 221.9. Meanwhile, it's 7.5 and 221.5. I'm going to lay to 7.5 with the Lakers with the assumption that LeBron James will indeed play. All right, now we look ahead to the weekend. Saturday, 5 o'clock, Celtics, Wizards. 7 o'clock, Magic, Pistons, Knicks, Pelicans. 7:30, Raptors, Pacers. 7:30, NBA TV, Hawks, Sixers. 8 o'clock, Jazz, Bulls, Heat, Grizzlies, Spurs, Bucks. Those two teams just played each other recently, too. 8:30, Thunder, Warriors. 9 o'clock, Nuggets, Timberwolves. And 10 o'clock, the Cavs and the Suns. Halloween Sunday, 3:30, the Kings at the Mavs. 7 o'clock, Trailblazers, Hornets on NBA TV. Jazz, Bucks. 7:30, Pistons, Nets, and 10:30, the Rockets and the Lakers. Now we move on to the NHL, where I will recap the games from last night, and we will look ahead to tonight and the weekend. Lightning over the Coyotes 5-1. Flames over the Pens 4-0, so best bet was a loser. Hurricanes over the Bruins 3-0. Avs over the Blues 4-3. Flyers over the Canucks 2-1. Sabres over the Ducks 4-3 in overtime on a game winner by Rasmus Asplund. Kraken over the Wild 4-1. Jets over the Kings 3-2. And the Canadiens over the Sharks 4-0. All right, tonight, 7 o'clock, we got the Panthers at the Red Wings. Panthers minus 196. Red Wings plus 162. Over under 6. Overs minus 120. Unders minus 102. Panthers minus 1/2 is plus 134. Red Wings plus 1/2 minus 162. I'm taking the Red Wings straight up, plus 162. Quinville's out. Obviously, we'll get into that in news and notes, but Detroit's the pick. Panthers are going to be distracted. Blue Jackets, Rangers. Rangers minus 182. Columbus plus 150. Over under 5.5. Overs plus 110. Unders minus 134. Columbus plus 1/2 is minus 176. Rangers minus 1/2 is plus 146. I think this is a bounce back spot for the Rangers. I'm going to take them to win in regulation tonight against a much weaker Columbus opponent, in my opinion, minus 115. Coyotes, Capitals. Caps minus 335. Coyotes plus 265. Over under 6. Overs minus 105. Unders minus 118. Arizona plus 1/2 is plus 108. Washington minus 1/2 is minus 132. I'm going to go with the over, minus 105. Blackhawks, Hurricanes. Hurricanes minus 200. Hawks plus 168. Over under 6. Overs minus 115. Unders minus 108. Chicago plus 1/2 is minus 140. Carolina minus 1/2 is plus 116. I'm going Carolina puck line minus 1/2 plus 116. I think this is a blowout. The Blackhawks are just a mess right now, as we know. 8 o'clock, the Ducks at the Golden Knights. Vegas minus 230. Ducks plus 188. Over under 5.5 minus 110 each way. Ducks plus 1/2 is minus 130. Vegas minus 1/2 is plus 106. I'm going to go Vegas puck line minus 1/2 or minus 1/2 at plus 106. Ducks on the second of a back-to-back. So I don't like the spot for Anaheim. And last but not least, 8:30, the Senators at the Stars. The Stars are minus 192. Ottawa plus 158. Over under 5.5 minus 110 each way. Ottawa plus 1/2 is minus 168. Dallas minus 1/2 is plus 136. I'm going to go over 5.5 at minus 110. I like that a lot. All right. Saturday's games. There's a lot of them. Some of the odds are up. Some of them are not. So that's why I'm not going to do picks. 1:30, Islanders, Preds. 4 o'clock, Canadiens, Kings. 7 o'clock, Panthers, Bruins. Red Wings, Maple Leafs. Devils, Bruins. Devils, Penguins. My bad. Jets, Sharks. 8 o'clock, Blackhawks, Blues. 9 o'clock, Wild, Avalanche. 10 o'clock, Flyers, Flames. And Oilers, Canucks. Halloween Sunday. 1 o'clock, the Coyotes and the Hurricanes. 4 o'clock, the Canadiens and the Ducks. The Sabres and the Kings. 5 o'clock, the Blue Jackets and the Devils. And 9 o'clock on NHL Network, the Rangers at the Kraken. All right, World Series game number 3 is tonight. It should be a good game from Atlanta as the Braves host the Astros. Your starting pitchers in this game are Ian Anderson and Luis Garcia. Braves are minus 116. Astros are minus 102. Over under 8.5. Overs minus 114. Unders minus 106. Astros minus 1/2 is plus 158. Braves plus 1/2 is minus 192. The overs have been the move in the World Series so far and in the Astros postseason games since Game 4 of the Red Sox series when their offense came to life. So I'm going to go over 8.5 minus 114. And I think you could say the same about the Braves offense, although it hit a lull on Wednesday, but I think they'll be better at home. So I think this is like a 6-3 game, either way. Or maybe it's 6-4, maybe 5-4, some sort of game like that. So I'm going to go over 8.5 at -114 for my pick for tonight. And then on Saturday, the game will also start at 8. We don't know who the starters are going to be yet. We know it's not going to be Charlie Morton for Atlanta. I'm going to say maybe Wade Miley. I need to see who started for them. And so Ian Anderson started Saturday for them against the Dodgers. Max Fried. Morton started game 3. I'm trying to think of who the starter is going to be for them. I think it's going to be a Drew Smiley game regardless, and then maybe Jesse Chavez as an opener. And then for the Astros, I think Framber Valdez pitched already in the series. And then Garcia's going the night. I doubt they'll turn to somebody on short rest. Well, they could see Jose Urquidy. Is that who pitched? I feel like he pitched game 1. No, Valdez was game 1. Urquidy was game 2. So I don't even know where they're going to go. Will they go with Zach Greinke? Will they pull that card? Jake Odorizzi, maybe? But yeah, and then Sunday will probably be maybe Kyle Wright. I could see Atlanta going to Kyle Wright, and then Houston, I think, is going to go to Valdez in game number 5. I'm going to say that the loss of Morton will haunt Atlanta a little bit on Sunday, and they split the first 2. So I'm going to say the Astros win game 5, and they split 3 and 4. So I'm going to say after Sunday, the Astros will have a 3-2 series lead in the World Series as the loss of Charlie Morton will come back to bite the Braves a little bit. Now we'll move on to Major League Soccer, as we will preview and pick the games for the weekend. Not going to do gambling picks in this segment because the Lions aren't out yet, and plus we're low on time. 1:30 Saturday afternoon, Miami against NYCFC. 3:30, Salt Lake hosts San Jose. 4 o'clock, Red Bulls host Club Football Montreal. 6 o'clock, Atlanta hosts Toronto. 7:30, Columbus at DC United. And 8 o'clock, Austin at Dallas. And on Halloween Sunday on ESPN at 1 o'clock, you have Minnesota hosting KC. That's a good game. 3 o'clock, you have Houston hosting Colorado. 4 o'clock, Nashville at Orlando. And 7:30, you have Cincinnati at Philadelphia. All right, now I'm going to go over the current leaderboard at the Bermuda Championship in golf. It's been an interesting tournament so far. There's not many big names in this one. This is some that, like, the opportunities there for some of, like, the lower tier guys to break through. So right now, tied for first with 10 under is Patrick Rogers and Taylor Pendrith. Third place with 9 under is Vincent Whaley. Tied for fourth with 8 under is Danny Lee and David Skins. Tied for sixth with 7 under is Lucas Herbert, Peter Monlotti, Patrick Flavin, and Justin Lauer. Tied for 10th with 6 under is Peter Yuling, Chad Ramey, Alex Smalley, Curtis Thompson, Ludwig Aberg, and Adam Sevenson. Tied for 16th with 5 under is Mark Hubbard, Sean O'Hare, Brandon Hagee, Patrick Reed, Seamus Power, Jermaine McDowell, Guido Migliozzi, Matthias Schwab and Davis Riley. Tied for 25th with 4 under is a pretty big tie. J.J. Spawn, Lucas Donald. Now I'm just going to go through notables. Dylan Fratelli. Tied for 36 with 3 unders. Matt Fitzpatrick, Lee Hodges. And Christian Ziedenhout. Tied for 45th with 2 under. Adam Hadwin. Dylan McCarthy. Tied for 54th with 1 under. Russell Knox. Ben Martin. Mito Pereiro, that was my pick. Tied for 63rd at even. Sup Straka. Scott Stallings. Tied for 73rd with 1 over. Camilo Vegas. Brock Stewart. Tied for 87th with 2 over. Cam Percy. Tied for 101st with 4 over. Matt Neesmith. And that's really it among the notables there. All right. Now I'll move on to NASCAR, where I will preview and pick 3 races. We'll start with the truck. I don't have much time to do the starting lineups, so I'm just going to go blindly pick them from DraftKings. So the United Rentals 200 tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. My pick here, let's go with the good one. Johnny Sauter, 15-1. I like that one a lot. Xfinity Dead on Tools 250. Let's go with Justin Haley, 14-1. I tend to have picked him a lot this year. I feel like he's racing a little better. And last but not least, Cup, the Xfinity 500, Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock. I'm going to take from the friendly confines of the one and only Martinsville Speedway, where everybody's racing this weekend. I'm going to take a guy that had great history at Martinsville. He's 40-1, and that is the one and only Kurt Busch. We'll go with the super long shot there to win the Draft Top 250 on Sunday afternoon. All right, now news and notes, as we will hit on everything before we get into the picks, the big picks of the weekend. All right, so here's some interesting stuff coming down. Jake Paul against Tommy Fury set December 18th in Tampa, Florida. So that is a Saturday. So that should be a lot of fun. And obviously Tommy Fury's Tyson Fury's half-brother. So that is something really cool. So a couple candidates revealed for the Mets general manager job. So Red Sox, Raquel Ferreira, Twins, Daniel Alder, and Dodgers, Jeff Kingston. I kind of like Jeff Kingston and Raquel Ferreira. Those two have good resumes. But the Mets have really missed out. They're trying to go for the big names and keep striking out. So you got to hit one of these, like, lesser candidates, and the Dodgers and Red Sox guys are the ones that stand out to me. Jack Hughes out 5 more weeks with dislocated left shoulder that won't require surgery. That is a big loss for the New Jersey Devils. The Rams and Deshaun Jackson agreed to seek a trade as they're looking to trade him. It was just announced today that New York Attorney General Letitia James is running for governor next year. So now we're going to be seeing like announcements like this for New York governor, as New York's gubernatorial is next year. And obviously, Kathy Hochul's probably going to rerun, you would think. And speaking of New York governors, Andrew Cuomo charged with sex crime misdemeanor after the criminal probe. I'd say that was a little predictable. Alec Baldwin spotted with his wife and kids in a small town after the fatal shooting. That is just, you would think that Baldwin would be a little laying low, but I guess he's out and about. But yeah, it's just a very sad situation. We talked about it on the show the other day. He was spotted in Vermont. Facebook reveals its new name. And Mark Zuckerberg announced the name change to Meta. I wonder when that is really going to be in full effect in terms of the app and the website. But it still stands at Facebook right now. And back to sports-related news. We talked about LeBron coming back tonight. Patrick Williams out for the season for left wrist dislocation, is expected to miss the rest of the regular season. That is such a gigantic blow for the Bulls, who started undefeated and lost last night to the Knicks in a game which the Bulls could have stole, but they didn't. Throws it at the air ball at the end of the game. Some more hockey stuff. Morgan Riley gets paid 8-year contract extension, 7.5 a year. So in total it is 8 years, $60 million. So the contract extensions just keep on coming. And the Maple Leafs found out the big news today on the ice. And they gave Riley a huge team hug. The Avalanche were spooked at a haunted house as JT Compher and Tyson Yost lost their minds in the world's scariest haunted house. This is something that kind of went viral. I'd suggest you check it out. Winnipeg general manager Kevin Shavlayoff won't be punished, as Gary Bettman says he was not responsible in the Blackhawks' improper decisions, as he was not a part of their senior leadership team at the time. We talked about it earlier. Joel Quenneville out in Florida. They say he resigned, but let's be real, I think he got fired. And replacing him in the intern is Andrew Burnett. And owner of the Blackhawks, Rocky Works, reached out to the league about removing Brad Aldrich's name from the Stanley Cup. And we'll see how that plays out. And then Kyle Beach released a statement too. As one of the lines was, "My battle is really just beginning." And Beach, like I said, is very brave for coming out and speaking about this awful situation. And this is not over, folks. Like, I'm surprised that Winnipeg's GM is still around, even though he wasn't a part of the senior leadership team for the Blackhawks. And I think that there's a chance that John Tortorella ends up becoming the actual permanent head coach of the Florida Panthers in the fallout of this. So we'll see. With that, Baker Mayfield to play on Sunday against the Steelers. Cliff Kingsbury says that DeAndre Hopkins checked himself in despite injury. We wanted him to stay off the field, but he just brought on. Oof. So we saw a not-so-pretty incident in the game as Jonathan Ward and Kylan Hill were both carted off after a scary collision. Aaron Rodgers has been doing funky stuff this year. He did the whole thing with the Bears fans and now healed up 7 fingers after the game because, 7 straight wins for the Packers. Cade Cunningham returning to practice. That's good news for the Pistons. We saw the Knicks at the Bulls last night, and Derrick Rose got a huge ovation and an MVP chant from the crowd. They will always love Derrick Rose in Chicago. And the other big story from yesterday, it's overshadowed by all the Blackhawks drama, is in baseball. The Padres found a new manager, and it is Bob Melvin, as he's leaving the Athletics and going to manage the Padres 3-year deal. So that's a huge, huge hire for the Padres. They land a big name. AJ Preller continuing to do win now type of moves. This is about as a great hire as you can get. I think that the New York Mets missed on a golden opportunity here to potentially steal him, but no. I think that some other teams missed out as well, but this is the Padres' gain and it's the Mets' loss, and the Padres, I think, are going to continue to go for it. Like, they fell apart at the end of last year because of injuries and inconsistent play. And on the flip side, Oakland is going to really self-combust, I think, here. I think that they're going to blow this baby up. I mean, could be reminiscent of the Cubs at the deadline, a little bit of them kind of blowing it up after the 2014 season, like in that Josh Donaldson era after they traded Donaldson away to Toronto. Like, Matt Olson has to be available. You'd think Matt Chapman might be potentially available. Sean Manaea. That team is going to blow up. And the Padres are probably going to be in on some of those guys. You would think the Yankees and the Mets are going to be in on some of those guys. I'd say the Rays should pursue a trade for like a Matt Olson. Boston should go for Sean Manaea. The Yankees should go for Manaea. I know people are throwing out Olson for them, but I think they should re-sign Anthony Rizzo. I think Rizzo fits them better than Olson. So I think all hands on deck for Oakland, and I think that there's only a couple potential keepers, and obviously Simeon's a free agent, so he's going to leave. So it's going to be very fascinating. I think Oakland is absolutely the team to watch in the American League in terms of blow it up. And the Padres are keep an eye out for them team for potential win now. Alrighty. Last but not least, my best bet of the day and Fab 5 picks brought to you by FanDuel. Best bet tonight, I said earlier that it was a lock. And that is going to be the over Navy Tulsa. How is that only 46.5? Like, come on now. That is a lock. I mean, that is probably the lock of the year in college football so far. And I am very upset that I'm not in a state that has legalized gambling at the moment to actually put a lot on it. So that's my best bet. And then Fab 5, I'm going to read off the picks for Fab 5. College football, some of these numbers have changed, obviously. So, Fab 5, Temple, 10.5 against UCF. Purdue, 7.5 against Nebraska. UTEP, 10.5 against FAU. Notre Dame, minus 3.5 against North Carolina. And San Diego State in a pick'em against Fresno State. And the money line pick of the week, Temple, plus 360 against UCF without Taylor Gabriel. And the NFL Fab 5. Bills minus 13.5 against the Dolphins. The Bills just absolutely own Miami, as we know. The Rams minus 14.5 against Houston. No Tyrod Taylor back. And the Rams, I think, will play better than they did a week ago against the Lions. Chargers minus 4.5 against New England. Bounce back spot for the Chargers off a bye and off a loss. I like those types of teams coming off a bye and the loss. So they get themselves to recoup and regroup. Mac Jones on the road. They're not playing the Jets. So I think that the offensive line of the Patriots is great, but Joey Bosa's on the other side. Have the Patriots seen a guy as good as Joey Bosa on a pass rush this year? I don't know. So I don't think so. So I'm going to lay the 4.5 with the Chargers. I think this is a good spot for them at home against the Pats. 49ers Bears over 39.5. This is probably my favorite pick of the week because of the low total, and I think that both these offenses can score on each other. I think both teams are going to get the 20 points in this game, especially without Khalil Mack going on the Bears for defense. And then the last one, Titans plus 1.5 against the Colts and plus 104. I know the numbers have changed since then. It's now 2.5 and plus 122, I believe, but I got it at 1.5 and plus 104 when I made these bets. All right, so there you have it for today's show. I'll be back on Monday recapping everything from the weekend from college football, NFL, World Series, NBA, NHL, Major League Soccer, golf, NASCAR. I'll have news and notes for you and my best bet as well. Next week's a big week on the show because Election Day is Tuesday. We'll do the gubernatorial elections for New Jersey and a little bit of Virginia as well. And obviously the New York City mayoral race will be decided on Tuesday as well. Hope you guys have a great, great weekend, everyone.